at work, and we would run into each other at the proverbial water cooler, or perhaps talking across cubicles or wherever it might be in the office. We would have these informal conversations among colleagues that can really move the needle in some exciting ways. And trying to outsmart the PowerPoint dynamic, we can kind of really quickly zoom out on. Instead, set up this idea of a cafecito meaning small coffee. Greetings, welcome. My name is Dr. Eliana Ramirez. I'm the director of the Community Mental Health Equity Project, otherwise known as CMEP TA Center. I am delighted to be here with my colleague from one of the many partner organizations on the CMEP TA Center. Stephen, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We are thrilled to be able to partner with the NAMI California. We are for folks who may not be familiar, we are funded through AB 74 as part of a larger CMEP project to do 4 specific things. One is to engage in community listening through listening sessions, through surveys, through field work where we're attending meetings in the community to hear about the perspectives of the county cultural competence plans, ultimately to make recommendations for the California Department of Healthcare Services to revise the guidance for those CCPs, cultural competence plans. And the cultural competence plans are written every 3 years by counties, oftentimes in collaboration with local community-based organizations, to identify local behavioral health disparities and to create plans to achieve greater health equity. In addition to this important work with ethnic services managers and others at the County Behavioral Health Department and community-based organizations, we are also providing training and technical assistance to the field to support the work at the county level and in the community regarding the addressing of behavioral health disparities and work towards health equity. Additionally, we are working to support the relationships between community-based organizations and county behavioral health departments to really shore up our systems to work in collaboration with one another, again, to address local behavioral health disparities. So the Cafecito is an opportunity for us to introduce our partner agencies on the CMEP TA Center to the field so that they can get a little bit of a sense of the types of subject matter expertise that our partner agencies have. We offer to the community no cost training and technical assistance. And if you, like me, get jazzed about the work that NAMI California does and think, oh, there's some real subject matter expertise that my agency might be able to tap into to address our local behavioral health disparities, please do go to our website and submit a TA request, and know that that is part of the reason why we're doing this interview today, to hear a little bit about NAMI California. So Stephen, if you might please go ahead and start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and NAMI California.
Sure. Well, thank you again. My name is Stephen Kite. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at NAMI California. So sounds fancy, but really we just kind of make sure the trains run on time internally, that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing and kind of in line with our mission. NAMI's work is really about the community. So NAMI started 40 years ago with our first statewide event, but long before that with families sort of getting together and having what they called WOE nights, where they were trying to get into the medical system, trying to work within the medical system to help their loved ones or themselves get better. And they were facing a lot of resistance. They were being told that, you know, kind of those sort of older beliefs about maybe the family caused the mental illness, maybe, you know, those sorts of things. And families said, well, wait a minute. We know that that's not true, and we need a place where we can get together and talk about our perspective on what's happening and provide support to each other. What's working for your family? What's working for you? And so over the past many decades, NAMI has taken those pieces of information and built them into several successful programs like Family to Family and Peer to Peer. And it's really about, you know, it's not giving people a medical doctorate, but it's really about what is the family's experience? What is our personal experience with these things? So it's not the same as a social worker. It's not the same as like a counselor, but really like someone who's been there. And that's really what NAMI is. And so NAMI has a lot of wonderful programs, and in your local community, I'm sure, you know, a lot of folks that are listening probably have maybe attended some of our programs, and they're so wonderful. But I think what's even more wonderful about NAMI is really connecting to the ecosystem of all of the people around and all the community that's there to support you and say, hey, I've been there. I know what you're going through. Because when you're dealing with a mental illness, or you're dealing with a family member who has a mental illness, or a friend, it can feel really isolating. You know, NAMI says often, mental illness isn't a casserole illness where, you know, maybe you break your leg and your neighbors are like, hey, you know, we want to come over and bring you something. People still don't know what to say in a lot of cases, and there's still so much stigma. And so we really have the honor to be able to support each other in all of this and be the ones that bring the casserole and bring the ones that, you know, kind of come together and say, I've been where you've been, I know where you can get to, and let me help you on the path. And so at the state office for us, we're also able to see that at the full statewide level. So we can see, you know, what's working in certain areas, what's working for certain communities. How can we help take something that's really popular in Imperial Valley and bring it up to, you know, San Jacinto or Butte County, that kind of thing. And so having ways to help counties and, you know, communities find ways to connect to each other, translated materials, best practices, all that kind of stuff. So we're really like kitchen table all the way up to the legislature, try to figure out how we can make the systems work for the families that it tries to serve. And this project is just such a wonderful opportunity for us to be part of a great team that's really trying to do the same thing. So probably a long-winded answer there to sort of what we do, but so things like our public information programs, like, you know, a lot of things that we do have to do with like helping people understand what is the individual experience. So things like Mental Health 101, we have programs that have several modules like that, where you could be somebody who maybe speaks Spanish and wants to talk about your experience as a person with a mental illness or a family member. We have programs that we can train folks in to then go out and give those presentations in a structured way with video and other sort of supportive things that help tell the story that's authentic from a community that that is trying to work through an issue. And so we really try to think about that. Education, support, and stigma reduction is really a lot of what NAMI does. And then, of course, at the state, also legislative and advocacy work. So once you're kind of feeling in a better place, that you can also use your story to help other people.
It's so exciting always to step back and think about, I love the way that you described that as well, Stephen, from, what did you say, the kitchen table to the legislature.
Yeah.
And talking about the individual experience and then locating it within the community. So whether it's a community that's organized around language or race, ethnicity, or sexual orientation, gender identity, or region of the state. You were talking about different counties. Some of them are rural, some of them are urban, and everything in between. And being able to talk about that anti-stigma and recovery message that is important for at the individual level, but then can be translated to a larger advocacy level, the state.
Yeah.
It is so exciting also to hear about the work that NAMI does, National Alliance of Mental Illness California chapter. Did I get that right?
Yes, perfect.
Excellent. Okay. I always have to check my acronyms for a second here in this world of work these days. But so NAMI California is also really distinct in terms of the local chapters, because you have these incredible affiliates across the state who are really experts on that local experience. I wonder if you might be able to chat a little bit about that as well, please.
Sure, yeah. So we looked at it recently, and I think 97% of people in the state of California have a NAMI in their local area. So we are kind of all across the state. And then the state kind of fills in those gaps, right? So if you don't have a local NAMI, you can reach out to us and we're happy to help sort of do that. But a lot of our chapters are completely run by volunteers. So these are just folks who work a 9-to-5 job but are still so passionate about helping others in their area that they've said, listen, we're going to come together and we're going to build a NAMI. And generally they serve geographic areas, but they often have specific focuses because of the population that they're serving in their area might have programs that are then based on or cater to particular communities, like you said, to sort of help us think through what can that be? And I think, you know, for a lot of our families, it starts out with the individual experience. You know, I'm having this issue, I want to help my family member. And then I think it sort of grows. And this is really key to how NAMI works in almost every single aspect of the work that we do, where you help your loved one, you might help your neighbor, you might try to help your city, and then it just grows and grows from there. And that's what we really thrive in. Because I think for all of us, you know, when we are driving down the street and we see somebody, or walking down the street and we see someone grab their chest, we sort of instinctively know what to do to help that person. We know to do chest compressions, call 911. You know, that person is taken to a hospital where their family member can come and visit them, and they have their treatment plan explained to them. It's safe. They feel like they're getting better. Mental illness is completely sort of the opposite, right? When we see somebody in crisis on a street corner, we turn away from them in many cases. A police car might come to greet them rather than an ambulance. They might be taken to a facility where they don't have their questions answered. Their family may not be able to visit. And so what we really believe is changing the individual perspective, changing the individual kind of community, changes systems too. And we really believe in using that personal experience to help inform how systems change, how, you know, many of the counties that are probably listening have NAMIs that are part of their mental health boards, because we really believe that the family experience, the individual experience is what change needs to be. And that is how we make things better for people. Because if we don't understand the difference between how we treat somebody on a street corner, we can never change the systems that try to serve them. So that's why our community specific locations are so important, because they're hearing every single day what families are going through and working through those programs. You know, our programs that we talked about a little bit in the beginning, and you can certainly come on NAMICA.org and learn about all of our programs. But those programs are constantly changing and updating based on what we hear from folks. They're constantly being translated into new languages. They're constantly being translated into new approaches of how to do things, even through the pandemic. Now our programs are available online, which before they were never allowed to be online because we just didn't think it was possible. But families push those boundaries consistently. And there's always an advocate who is ready to step up and say, this is needed. And NAMI is really the place where we get together and have those hard conversations and figure out how we can make it work for people.
I'm so glad that you brought up the real leadership and distinctive approach that NAMI has taken to pivot or adapt in those early days of the pandemic to meet the changing needs in the community. And I've seen NAMI do this over and over and over again, NAMI California chapter in particular as well, the really exciting work that you all are doing around CalHope. I wonder if you might talk a little bit about that work, because I know that for many counties, whether it's the pandemic or wildfires or there's the drought or other megastorms that have really ravaged different parts of the state, of course, we see that those disasters and crises amplify existing behavioral health disparities.
Yeah, and you know, it's so interesting because I've been here quite a while now. I think I'm entering my 11th year here at NAMI. And as I'm sure you know, we've been trying for so long to figure out, what does peer support look like in California? How can we help bring it forward? How can we help really recognize the skills that families and individuals living with mental illness bring to a treatment team or bring to a support environment? CalHope has been one of the first things that's really shown a light on that. You know, after the peer support specialist bill passed in the legislature and was signed into law, counties are now trying to think about, well, what can this support look like? And so CalHope was a really great example of where you have crisis, you have multiple crises, right? Because CalHope is for both fire, was for fire, and probably will be again, and it was for COVID relief for people who are, you know, kind of going through stuff. Having a place where families said, hey, the skills and the things that I've gone through as a person living with a mental illness are also my greatest strengths, right? And so we were talking a little bit about this before, about how, you know, for all of us as individuals and communities, oftentimes the hardest things that happen to us become then our greatest armor, our greatest weapon to then fight the next battle. And so that's really what a lot of what CalHope came from, was this idea that how can we use peer support in a way that helps people who might not have ever been here before to people who say, listen, I've got this, I've been through this, I know where you are. They're not there as therapists, they're not there as doctors, they're just saying, I've been where you are. And that is so powerful for so many of us, because we can hear the research and we can hear all the other parts, but until we have someone who says, listen, I know what you're going through and feel that, it's hard. That's just such a shining light, just in the same way that hearing from your doctor is a shining light, in the same way that hearing from a social worker is. And it's funny because I actually drove up to Lake Tahoe to just get away a little bit with my husband. And when we were driving through the part that had been ravaged by the fires, you saw a lot of signs that thank you firefighters, thank you police, which is wonderful, what we always see. And what we also saw were thank you to the support staff who and you just never saw that before, right? So those are the kinds of things. I took a picture of it. I'll actually send it to you if you want. And then on the other side of the building, it said, thank you for saving our town. And I think it really stuck out to me because that's how important that support was, and I think in a lot of cases we can think, oh, well, peer support or support services, they're like a nice thing to have, but to really have somebody, kind of put a huge sign on the side of their building with us right there is just as important as fire and police, shows how important and critical mental health services are in a crisis situation, and why the important work that the CMEP project is doing is so important, because every county is going to have a totally different set of those needs, but the individual families' appreciation and use of those services is so critical to their getting better.
You are such an interesting person to chat with, because you bring up these images that are undeniable and so powerful. And I'm just imagining you driving by and seeing that sign and what it means, given the significant work that NAMI California has done and continues to do to support the supporters.
Right.
And this idea of peer engagement, building rapport, undermining stigma, creating a sense of hope. You can't get that. I don't care how many books you read or how many degrees a person has. You really only get it with lived experience. And I think when we talk about addressing behavioral health disparities and creating health equity, having that image of being able to talk about the strengths and resiliencies of our communities, as we also talk about the behavioral health disparities and the challenges that systematically and interpersonally affect our health,
right.
Those two pieces have to go together. And NAMI California continues to do that by really elevating the unique perspectives and healing capacity of people, whether it's a family member advocate or whether it's somebody who has gone through or continues to go through their own story of recovery.
Right.
I'm so grateful that you would elevate that here. And the other piece that I'm aware of is the unique positionality that NAMI California has as a TA provider.
Mm-hmm.
So I hear you recognizing the expertise that a local community-based organization or a county behavioral health department would have, because they know best what's happening in their community.
Right. Right.
But if paired with a NAMI California subject matter expert who can come in and bring some technical expertise, it's that magic spot between that locally specific expertise and that technical expertise. And that's where the real magic can happen. And I've seen NAMI California do this in so many different ways. I wonder if you might talk a little bit about what people could submit TA requests, what types of topics might be best matched by your NAMI California staff, please.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thank you for bringing it up. And I think, we consider ourselves so lucky, right? Because families are sharing this information and want to help each other. We have so many wonderful, brave folks at the county level who really want to serve their communities but they're just not sure how, right? So they might see an issue and go, I really want to do this, but I just don't know what's the path here. And I think one of the things that's always so wonderful is when they say, I want to hear from what the community thinks about this. I want to hear, I don't want to design the solution from my seat at the county. I want to actually hear what families actually need. And so we've been so lucky to have so many partnerships where we can really help bring that voice in for, things like stigma reduction within a county office, for example. Community engagement. How can I help kind of understand how to reach out to my community, hear what they're saying, and design services that are not bringing families in on the back end to say, well, we've already made the building, but what color do you think it should be? But do we even need a building? Or where can we put this so that it's centrally located for folks and it's easy to use? How can we make it so that you'll come, but you'll also come back for the second visit? Those are things that families can really help drive and guide so that the services that you're putting out can be fully utilized. I think for us, also thinking about, like we talked about earlier, with hearing the voices of families who've been there and why that's so critical. And I thought what you brought up was so wonderful about, and even as we think about that cross-culturally, right, and intersectionally with people, that also their community experience is so critical. And that's why we need so many folks to help, and why we have so many people who across the state can say, well, this was my experience from this community as a loved one of somebody or a person living with a mental illness who speaks this language or comes from this background. And then that actually just adds so much more. That's why it's so critical that if you wake up under the California sky, that we're hearing your voice and that we're including you in the work that we do, because we have a responsibility to every single person here to be sure that you're getting every service, and that whether that's happening in Imperial County or Butte County, that experience is helpful to you, that it feels authentic to who you are as a person, and then it really makes you feel better. And so that takes all of us working together. So that's the kind of thing I think with TA requests that we can really be helpful for. Are there programs and services that your community might need that we can help you with either implementing through partnerships with your local NAMIs, thinking about ways that we can help you look at your community and kind of understand the needs of it in a better way, thinking about those kinds of cultural trainings and cross-cultural sort of communication things that we can help with. We have tons of experience, we have tons of background in all of that, tons of programs and guides and just different things that we would love to share and kind of help people think through, because it's really critical that when we say we serve California, that means we serve all of California. And we take that really, really seriously, and we are just working all the time to find new ways to hear people, new ways to reflect that back, whether it's through our multicultural symposium, whether it's through our statewide conferences, whether it's through our town halls where we bring in, statewide leaders to talk about key issues, and actually connect them to people who are living through it so that they can hear each other and understand. Because even though you might be sitting in a hospital thinking about how you can serve your community, that parking lot can feel like the Grand Canyon of trying to get out to your neighbors and hear what they need. And in the same way, you might be thinking in a county, I don't have the help that I need to implement what I'm trying to do, but I guarantee you there's an army of families and individuals out there who want you to succeed, because it means that their family will be healthier and safer. And we want to build the bridge over that Grand Canyon so that people don't have to try to navigate it alone. At the bottom of the Grand Canyon, there's a river, and there is, growth and life. And that is all of us who get stuck in the in-between. There are guides, there are people who help each other. And that's really what NAMI is about, is finding those connections and helping it not feel like, even if it is the Grand Canyon, that there's love and support there for you as well.
Wow. I was excited. I'm going to be honest with you. I was excited about this conversation, this cafecito. But I'm being moved with your analogies and the metaphors in a way that is, you are demonstrating the hope that NAMI California, I think, brings to the state in so many different places. It is palpable. It is so incredible to think about, like you were talking about, the conferences, the listening sessions. There's so much that NAMI California has been doing in multiple areas, addressing diversity, equity, inclusion, and thinking both about from the individual level of mental health experiences and recovery, and then going larger to think about the family, the community, all the way up to the state. And I'm just wanted to also highlight for folks that this annual multicultural symposium that NAMI California does is really highlighting the awareness of those working communities to address the needs of diverse people across the state of California. We're so lucky to be in a state that is so incredibly diverse in so many different ways. And that you've brought in really significant leaders across the state, like Dr. Jay Africa, who was a keynote in 2020, talking about why we should bring conversations of race and racism to the table. I know that you've also had a number of other really prominent thinkers and movers and shakers as well, who've worked on your board at different points in time. And you have this incredible staff who are available on a day-to-day to provide TA to the field. I wonder if you might talk about, as a final piece, any additional work that NAMI California is doing right now that you're especially jazzed about, that you'd just like to share out with the field because you've got the mic.
Sure. Well, first of all, let me just say thank you so much for being such a wonderful partner in this conversation, because I think that it's really, we always feel so lucky to be partnered with such wonderful agencies and such wonderful people like you who really understand the meaning of why this stuff is so important and why the work that we do is so critical to help people. And we're so lucky to have so many families that are willing to give in really tough situations to help the next person find their way up, and kind of get to the place that we're all trying to get to. So I agree with you. We're so lucky to be in a state that has so many perspectives and so many voices and so many backgrounds. And all of that diversity is our strength. All of that, kind of vast experience and sort of different perspectives helps us really polish our system into something that's going to work for everyone. We won't ever probably get to the perfect thing, but the goal is that we're always moving forward. And so we're always trying to think about that. So, I think for us, we're always trying to think about, in all of our new projects that come up, what are things that we can do to serve or hear people better? So for us, for example, we're developing things like support specialist training. So we talked a little bit more about peer support specialists and what that can mean. We really want to help move that forward so that we're starting to think about, in what ways do peer support specialists help a medical team? In what ways do we have pipelines for folks who are like, listen, I just got out of an inpatient psychiatric facility. I need to get my life back. What can that look like? That there are pathways for you to find strength and expertise from your experience and use that to then be part of the workforce again and be, kind of move your life forward. And so we don't want these hard stops in life for people to be places where you get stuck. And so we're always working to find where those things are, whether it's in care, post-care, any of those parts, crisis, that those things become sources of strength. That all these things that we've gone through are our armor, there are weapons, there are things that move us forward in this world. And so in a lot of our new projects, it's really trying to define that. So thinking about, what laws need to change. Right now we're in our legislative season, of course. So we just went through a full understanding of what are people saying around the state. So with NAMI California, we ask all of our members, what laws do you think need to change? What things are most important to you? What things are causing you challenges? And so access to care, of course, is always right at the top of that list, because, just access is still a huge challenge that families are facing. So, and then we kind of look at the hundreds, sometimes thousands of bills and try to figure out what things in here can we be the most effective at to kind of like move those conversations forward. And so if you're on our social media, if you're looking at what we're working on, often we're trying to move those conversations and push the administration or the legislators along to kind of help partner on these key issues. And so luckily, we have a wonderful administration. We have wonderful teams at a lot of the agencies in the state that are really trying to think about how can we serve people better. And so that's why this is always these kinds of projects are so wonderful, because they're really thinking about what do you need and then how can we all help? Because we're here just waiting for an opportunity to kind of put everybody out there and really help us move the system forward, because we are all the system, we're all made up of it. So I think we also have an obligation to it to make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do and that we're moving it forward. So that's kind of what we're always thinking about as we're doing this stuff, is like, what can we do to really help families at the kitchen table? So we'll use the systems and everything else, but at the end of the day, and I know that our county folks and our state folks are always thinking about this too, it's really about what an individual person's going through. And so I think that's always so important, is like, I think sometimes families and individuals will feel like, well, my voice can't matter because this is just my experience. And really, it's the only thing that matters. And it's the only thing that should matter to all of us in service design, in service implementation, in service evaluation, is what does that mean for the kitchen table? And what does that mean for an individual family? So just like in the beginning where we talked about, you might start by helping your loved one and you might end by helping, your community. That's the same journey that any service should go through, is like, it really should start with, does it help the person? And so thinking about that whole process is sort of like always our North Star.
Wow, CMEP TA Center is so fortunate that NAMI California said yes to the invitation to partner together. I am just thrilled that I'm certain that we will be receiving TA requests. People will go to the CMEP TA Center website and specifically have an opportunity to ask for partnership with a NAMI California subject matter expert, whether it's to help their community-based organization or their county behavioral health department. That you talk about the focus on families, focus on individual stories, and always keeping that as the North Star, and the importance of peer support and lived experience, destigmatizing how we think about mental health challenges, and that it not become a stuck point, that people get to move on in their lives and to use those moments, as you said, the armor, that we come out post-traumatic growth, we come out stronger, and we can apply it to the next challenge, of which there is no lack of challenges these days, right? In 2022, that is kind of what our experience is across California. But thank you so much, Stephen, for this interview today. And thank you to everyone in the field who's doing the incredibly important work to address behavioral health disparities locally.
Totally agree. And we're waiting. We're hoping that you'll reach out to us. Please, no question is too small. No request is too small. We would love to help with whatever. Thank you so much for having us here today to share a little bit about our work. It was so wonderful. And yeah, we're excited.
Outstanding. Well, thank you so much. And we will be in community moving forward.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Have a good day.